is still ongoing because they're looking at other officers possibly that could face charges.
Yes, and in the original scene, there's an officer that stayed behind with the vehicle that participated in the original stop, and those investigations are ongoing as well.
I don't know if we can do a split screen, Brett, if you're listening to me, but if we could possibly show the protesters that are now marching towards the Memphis Police Department. I understand that we may have some video of that as it's occurring right now. So far, there have been no violent protests at all that we have seen anywhere in the city of Memphis at this point. That looks like that concludes clip number 3. I want to bring in Cheryl Dorsey. She's been watching this for us. She's a retired NYPD sergeant as we look at some of the demonstrators who have gathered tonight here in Memphis. Again, so far, the protests have been peaceful. This is what Tyre Nichols' mother called for. This is what the president has called for. This is what every single local official in the city of Memphis has called for, a peaceful protest. They were okay with people assembling, expressing their First Amendment rights, just no violence, no damage to property. Cheryl, you've been watching the clips with us. You're a former NYPD sergeant. How would you characterize what those cops were doing to Tyre Nichols in that video?
Well, let me just say this. I'm retired LAPD, and this is indefensible. Indefensible. I mean, I've never...
Just people gathering. They're getting this clip ready, but I'd like to check in with the protesters to see if we have Priscilla Thompson. I'm not sure if she's this video, but we want to make sure that this information and this video is seen by the public because so many people wanted to know what happened here. Cheryl, I want to bring you back in here. Walk me through this. Tell me everything that shouldn't be done that is being done right now.
Well, they're not attempting to put handcuffs on him. They're not trying to get him into custody. They're not trying to control him. They're punishing Tyre because now they have caught up with him. And so these officers are punching him. They're kicking him. They're punching him in his face. They've knocked him over, propped him back up. We just saw him get kicked by an officer, much like was described, as though he were kicking a field goal in a football game. This is really just too much. It's too much. So the punishment continues. They continue to kick the officer.
And it's interesting, you used the word punish. They were seeking revenge, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I know that this happens at the end of a foot chase. You know, the officers are all amped up and they're pissed off because they had to run and jump fences and do whatever they had to do. These officers kind of allude to that because they had chased him a good distance, and at some point they lost sight of Tyre and they were trying to figure out where he was. And you hear them say they need a perimeter. And so now the punishment continues. You have another officer who comes moments after he's been down on the ground and already savagely beaten, and now he takes out a baton, a stick of some sort, and he's continuing to hit Tyre. And we see Tyre stand to his feet as best he can, and then they just sucker punch him in the face. Just awful. Cowards. Just cowards. There are no words for what these officers are doing.
What's strange is that they may have forgotten about this Skycop cam that is capturing everything, but you would think their body cam, they would know they had their body cam that would capture everything that was happening here. I mean, you know, the chief of police of Memphis told me it was inhumane. These officers no longer were acting like humans, right? They're beyond that at this point. You have to wonder what was going through their head.
So I can tell you what I believe. I believe that they're caught up in the moment. I call this a wolf pack mentality where everybody is just piling on and punching and kicking and hitting, even though there's no reason to. The man is already down. He can't even stand up on his own. And so they are in a zone. They have completely forgotten where they are, who they are, and that they're being watched not only by passerbys, but by the cameras that are in the community. Just, it's outrageous.
I know we had.
It's outrageous.
I want to ask our producers. I know we had Blake Ballin. He was standing by for us. He's defending one of these officers, Desmond Mills Jr. Okay, I understand he had to drop off. I do want to bring in Danny Savalos, who's our NBC News legal analyst. And Danny, can you see any type of defense here for these officers? I mean, you count several officers who were involved in the direct beating. I don't know if we counted all 5 that were there, but the police chief has said there were 5 officers who did not prevent this death. Can you see any type of defense strategy here?
Yeah, Cheryl Dorsey's assessment is spot on, but I can already tell you we know everything we need to know about the anticipated defense of these officers, because as Cheryl pointed out brilliantly, they're standing around putting it on the record. Now, there's a plus and a minus to that. Number one, they're establishing early on went for the gun, was driving in a way that was dangerous to the officers. You hear them talking about how he, allegedly tried to run them off the road, came up to a red light. You hear at least one, if not more, saying that he went for the gun. So what they're doing, again, and I hate to copy what Cheryl said, but she's right. They're standing around knowing they have their body cam on, doing what they think is servicing their defense. Of course, at this point, I don't think they have any inkling that they're going to get in trouble, that they've done something wrong. Instead, they believe that as long as they put their story on the record, it will exonerate them. But there's a double-edged sword there. By all of them standing around throwing out a story, they're locking themselves in. They're now on record, on video, on tape, giving their version of the story. So they can no longer vary from that. There can be nothing that is inconsistent for their defense with what they're saying so deliberately on their body cam video. And it's intentional. You can see they're still under the effects of the adrenaline from chasing this victim. And they are standing around doing the post-op where they talk each other through what happened.
Danny, flip sides for me now. Take the side of the prosecution here. How damning is this evidence now? I mean, you have multiple cameras, multiple angles showing what we've seen.
It gets harder to watch almost every time you watch it. And we only have been able to show you a short part of it. The video is about an hour long, and we've been going through it, and the moments like that are just really hard to watch. Joining me now is
I didn't do anything. I didn't hurt your past brother. Get on the ground. Take your ass. Get on the ground. Take you. You don't get on the ground. What? Now. Where it rains and Ross. Taylor's deployed. Full state is running down Ross. Young male, black, slim build, blue jeans, and a hoodie. Southbound Ross, where we last saw her. What's that? Yes. All right, hang on. Ready? All right, just ready. What the props bastard? All right, your door's right in front of you. All right, hang on. Where's your water? Okay, I got you. Good boy. Good. Ready? Negative 2938. Where are my damn glasses? damn rock. What make it right? Yeah. What's up? All right, ready? What? Right. That way. Okay, I gotta find my glasses and get this damn taser.